They never printed it on any official star chart. Every galactic atlas, digital or ancient, just ended in a blank, right where human space began. The coordinates didn't exist. There were no navigation routes, no trade lines, no diplomatic boundaries, just a void, an empty grid of silence. And everyone in the galaxy knew exactly what it meant. Don't go there. Jan, a grizzled freighter pilot from the Othery system, had heard all the stories. Every starport bar he'd ever drunk himself half dead in had some version of the myth. Human space was cursed. Ships entered but didn't return. Patrols vanished without distress signals. Even the scavengers who lived off wrecks didn't touch that border. Not after what happened to the Kalari fleet. Jan wasn't a coward. He wasn't stupid either. He'd fought in the Marzon Rebellion, smuggled arms during the Sevrak collapse, and once negotiated with a hive queen while bleeding out. But this job, this one had him sweating. The client never gave a name. Just a cold voice over a scrambled comm. Retrieve a black box from the wreck of the Halcyon Ark. Coordinates to follow. Payment, 400,000 credits. Untraceable. He should have walked away. But 400,000 could buy him a whole new ship, a new face, and a quiet life. So he agreed. Stupidly. And that's how he ended up here, orbiting a dead hunk of metal at the edge of the one place the entire galaxy pretended didn't exist. His ship's sensors were already glitching, flickering in and out like they were scared to tell him the truth. The Halcyon Ark was real. It had been one of the first interstellar colonial ships Earth launched after the Exodus War. A ghost from a time when humans still pretended to be part of the galaxy. He switched on the comms. "Ship's in sight," he said. "It's not transmitting. Looks burned out, like something clawed through it." The voice responded, flat and immediate. "Retrieve the black box. Do not enter the bridge. Do not access the cryopods." John hesitated. Cryopods? No answer, just static. He gritted his teeth. Of course. Docking was rough. His clamps wouldn't hold, so he used a magnetic tether and drifted into the airlock manually. The Ark creaked as he stepped inside, its silence pressing against him like a scream held too long. Lights were out. Gravity was unstable. He moved through the corridor, flashlight flickering like it was dying from fear. The walls were scorched. Something had torn through the bulkheads. Not weapons, claws, massive curved gouges in the alloy. Jan's fingers twitched on the grip of his pulse gun. He didn't believe in monsters. But the air felt wrong, thick and metallic, like the breath of something ancient. He found the black box in the engineering bay. It was half buried in slag, but intact. Just as he reached for it, the Ark shifted. A long metallic groan echoed through the ship. Then a faint click behind him. He turned. A cryopod hissed open. No lights, no activation protocol. Just a hiss and a slide, like something had done it manually. Inside the pod was a man. Human, tall, broad-shouldered, his skin pale from decades of stasis. He wasn't moving. His eyes were open, and staring straight at Jan. Then the man blinked. Jan didn't move. The man in the cryopod just kept staring at him, unblinking now, eyes like frozen glass. Not confused, not dazed, just awake, watching. "Hell no!" Jan backed away slowly, black box clutched to his chest like a shield. His breath fogged in the cold air, heart pounding so hard it shook his ribs. Cryothor was never like that. There was always disorientation, tremors, coughing. Not this silent, deliberate awakening. He reached for his comm. "Control, I've got the box, but there's a survivor. Someone's out of cryo." No reply. Static hissed back at him, swallowing his voice. The man stepped out. No stumble, no hesitation. He was barefoot, shirtless, wearing only the shredded remnants of a flight suit around his waist. His eyes never left Jan. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice calm. Too calm. "None of you should have ever come back." Jan raised his pulse gun. "Look, pal, I don't want trouble. I didn't know anyone was alive. Just taking what I was paid for." "You're not leaving with it." The man tilted his head. "That box doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to them." "The hell are you talking about? Who are you?" The man smiled, and it wasn't friendly. It was knowing, cold, like he was looking at something far beneath him. "I'm what's left." The lights above flickered, then died completely. Suddenly the air shifted. A pressure filled the space, deep and rumbling, as if something massive had stirred in the Ark's core. Jan's flashlight trembled in his grip, casting wild shadows across the corridor. And then he heard it. Metal bending. No, screaming, not mechanical. Alive. From deep within the ship. Jan didn't wait. He turned and ran, tearing down the corridor with the box in one hand and his gun in the other. The hallway pulsed red with emergency lights now, like the ship was bleeding. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Slow, steady, and always close, like the man wasn't running, just following. Confident he'd catch up. He stumbled through the airlock, slapped the override, and sealed the hatch just as the footsteps reached the other side. He could still hear them, pacing. Back on his ship, Jan threw the black box onto the console and fired up the engines. The Ark floated like a corpse outside his viewport. He didn't know what the hell he had just seen, but it wasn't right. Nothing about it was. "Computer, analyze the black box." The screen lit up with old Earth symbols. Most of it was encrypted, but a few words filtered through. "Project Leviathan, containment failure, human variant, active." The last log was a voice recording. Male. Calm. Familiar. If you're hearing this, then someone ignored the warnings. You want the truth? Fine. Here it is. We were never meant to leave Earth. Not because of war, not because of policy, but because of what we became. Jan shut it off. He looked back out the window and froze. The Ark was gone. Just vanished. No jump signature, no trail, like it had never been there. Then something buzzed on his screen. An incoming transmission. No ID, no coordinates, just one message. "You took something that belongs to us. Return it, or we come for it." Jan stared at the message. His knuckles whitened on the throttle. Because us didn't mean humans. It meant something else. Something hiding in the black, behind the dead zone on the galactic map. And now it knew his name. Jan didn't sleep that cycle. Couldn't. He kept the cockpit lights low, ship drifting in silent orbit around a dead moon just outside the human sector border. Every sensor was maxed, scanners running constant sweeps. Nothing showed up. But the unease never left. He replayed the message over and over again in his mind. "Return it, or we come for it." Come for it. That meant whatever was in the black box wasn't just sensitive. It was dangerous. And whoever or whatever sent that message, it wasn't bluffing. His ship's AI, a barebones unit with no personality chip, flickered to life. "Unauthorized signal detected. Direction, inside human space. Source unknown." Jan sat up straight. Playback. The AI didn't obey. Instead, the control panel began flickering, lights pulsing erratically. A deep hum vibrated through the ship's frame, as though something was speaking in a frequency meant to rattle bones, not ears. Then every screen on the bridge went black, and a symbol appeared, etched in red light. A human skull, surrounded by 13 circles, all broken. Jan whispered, 13 sectors. 13 colonies. The Exodus Project had been Earth's last desperate gambit before isolation. They'd sent 13 ships, massive, self-sustaining vessels, to colonize deep space. The Halcyon Arc was one of them. But if that symbol was real, all 13 had failed. He connected the black box to a secure port and initiated manual decryption. The AI warned him against it, but he bypassed the lock. The logs spilled in like a flood. Visuals, audio screaming, reports of mutation, madness, whole colonies turning on themselves, not from external attack, but from within. Humanity hadn't failed because they were weak. They had failed because something in them broke loose. The Halcyon Arc's crew had experimented with neural augmentation, gene edits meant to push evolution, a last-ditch effort to make humans strong enough to survive alien space. They succeeded, and it tore the crew apart. The man Jan saw in the cryopod wasn't human anymore. Not really. He was the result of forced evolution, built to endure deep space, resist psychic influence, survive zero-gravity combat. But something else came with it, something they couldn't control, a kind of hunger, an awareness beyond sanity. The final log was grim. The variant is no longer stable. It doesn't obey, it doesn't communicate, it waits, and it watches. We buried the Halcyon Arc at the edge of known space because we were afraid of what it would become if it ever learned. Suddenly, Jan's proximity alarm blared. He checked the scanner. Still no ships. Then the hull groaned, just like on the Ark. He grabbed his weapon and stood. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. He hadn't docked with anything. No breach alert. But something was on his ship. He moved slow, pulse gun aimed ahead. The corridor lights dimmed, and the air turned cold, sharp with static. Then he saw it. The man. The thing. He stood at the end of the hall. No suit, no gear, just standing there, head slightly tilted like he was curious. "You opened it," he said. Jan didn't speak. "You think you've seen the worst of us?" The man smiled faintly. "We were made for this galaxy, and the galaxy knows it." Jan fired. The shot hit dead center and passed through him. No blood, no reaction. Just the faint sound of the man breathing, like a wind inside the walls. "I don't want to hurt you," he said, "but that box, it's mine. And if you run, we follow." Then he vanished. Not like teleporting. Just gone. No shimmer, no sound, like a thought erased. Jan backed into the cockpit, sealed the doors, and fired the engines. He didn't care where he went. He just needed distance, time. But even as he jumped into warp, the ship felt heavy. Watched. He was starting to understand why the map stopped where it did. Not to hide humanity from the galaxy, but to hide the galaxy from humanity. Jan didn't know how long he stayed in warp. Time got slippery when fear kept its grip on your spine. He'd outrun bounty hunters, warships, and even a collapsing sun once. But this wasn't something you could outpace. Not when it could appear without a sound. Not when it whispered through metal like it owned the ship. When he finally dropped out of warp, he found himself above a derelict mining colony near the fringe of the Altari belt. It had been abandoned for decades, left to rot after the veins dried up and the workers vanished. Perfect place to disappear. Or die quietly. Jan powered down everything. Engines, scanners, even life support to minimal levels. He sat in silence, heart thudding like war drums in his ears. The black box sat on his console like a sleeping bomb, waiting to be cracked wide open. He stared at it. This thing wasn't just history. It was a message, a warning the galaxy didn't want to read. He could destroy it. He should. But something inside him itched, a deep, stubborn curiosity. Maybe it was greed, or pride, or the kind of madness that grabs men who've seen too much. He activated it again, this time deeper into the logs, past the warnings, past the classified seals. There was a recording. A room. Surgical. Cold. Sterile. Two humans, scientists, speaking in rushed whispers. This is Dr. Callan. Day 431. Subject 7's cognition exceeds baseline by 300%. Neurological scans suggest synaptic patterns beyond human range. The other scientist interrupted. You mean he's reading minds? No, worse. He's infecting thoughts. He speaks, and the room falls into alignment. He's not just evolved, he's a contagion. He alters what it means to be human. Jan's mouth went dry. They'd created something that didn't just survive, it dominated. By existing. By being. He cut the feed. That was the moment the lights flickered again. Then a whisper. Right behind him. You listened too much. He spun. Nothing. The cockpit was empty. But the reflection on the viewport glass showed something behind him. Something smiling. He turned again. Still nothing. His hands were shaking now. And it wasn't just fear. It was a sense that his own thoughts were being bent. That he wasn't just being watched. He was being shaped. Suddenly, the nav computer flashed red. New destination set. He hadn't touched it. The ship lurched, engines flaring to life. He tried to override, but the controls were dead. Locked. The black box blinked once, like it was satisfied. Coordinates scrolled across the screen, straight into the heart of human space. Back to Earth. Back to where this nightmare began. Jan slammed the console with his fist. No, not going back there. I won't be part of this. But the ship didn't care, and neither did the thing inside it. The voice returned, soft as a breath. You're not part of it. You're the carrier. That was when Jan saw his reflection. Not his own eyes, something else. Something waiting behind them. The next few hours blurred. Jan couldn't remember when he passed out, or how long he'd been out cold. But when he woke, his ship was already parked. Landed. Not drifting or orbiting. Landed. That shouldn't be possible. He staggered to the cockpit and looked out. Ruins. Earth, but not the Earth he remembered from vids and stories. The skies were bruised red with thick clouds, like the planet itself was bleeding. Towering husks of ancient cities stood broken and silent, bones of a civilization that had buried itself under concrete and arrogance. No satellites in orbit, no signals, no signs of life. But he felt it, that pressure again, thick and watching. He checked the ship's systems. All dead. Not damaged, drained. The core was intact. The circuits were clean, but nothing responded. Like the planet had sucked the will out of the machine. The black box was gone. Not taken, just vanished. He opened the hatch, pulse gun in hand, every step on the scorched earth feeling like walking on a grave. He hadn't taken 10 steps when he saw them. Figures, not moving, not breathing, not alive. Dozens, maybe hundreds of bodies standing in the distance. Perfectly upright, eyes open, no decay, no wounds, just stillness, as if frozen mid-thought, all facing toward the same point on the horizon, a massive crater. At its center stood a tower, monolithic, dark, and pulsing with a slow red light. Not a building, a beacon. And as he stared, Jan realized something worse than death had happened here. This wasn't destruction. This was obedience. Every corpse, every empty mind. They'd all listened. He stepped closer to one of the bodies. A woman. Young. Clean. Eyes wide open. She whispered. Just a breath. A soundless word. Home. Jan stumbled back. The tower flared. And then came the scream. Not of fear, not of pain, but of something breaking loose. The sky cracked open with sound, an unnatural resonance that vibrated through his teeth, through his bones, into his thoughts. He fell to his knees, hands over his ears, but the sound wasn't in the air. It was inside him. A voice. "We are awake." He looked up. The man from the Ark stood on the edge of the crater. Only now he wasn't just a man. He was more. Taller. Eyes pitch black, skin glowing with faint lines of pulsing heat, like he carried a storm beneath his skin. "You brought it home," he said, smiling. Jan could barely breathe. "What are you?" "We were humanity's answer to the galaxy's threat." His voice echoed unnaturally, not just from his mouth, but from the ground, the sky, inside Jan's skull. "But they feared what we'd become, so they buried us." The black box floated behind him now, spinning slowly. It took time, decades, but the map stopped at human space because they saw what we became. Jan tried to raise his weapon, but his arm didn't listen. It trembled, caught in a war between will and something older. "You've touched it now," the being said. "You've heard it. You're part of it." Jan gasped. "I didn't want this." "You didn't need to." The being's smile widened. "Now you are this." The beacon behind him pulsed again, and every corpse turned their head, in perfect unison, to look at Jan. They smiled too. Jan ran. Not out of hope. There was none left, but out of instinct. That primal urge buried deep in the spine of every creature that once crawled out of a hole and learned to fear the dark. But this was worse. Because the dark wasn't chasing him, it was already inside him. His legs burned as he stumbled through the ruins, weaving between the silent, smiling corpses that didn't move, didn't need to. Their stares were enough, each one carved into his brain like hot iron. He could feel them in his mind now, their thoughts brushing against his like spiders crawling beneath his skin. "We see you." His lungs ached. Gravity felt wrong here, like it wasn't just heavier, it was personal. Angry, as if the planet itself resented his presence. His ship was far behind him now, a dead husk in the dust, and even if he could reach it, he knew he would never get off this world. Not now, not after what he had awakened. He found shelter beneath a crumbled sky bridge, its steel frame warped and corroded, half melted like it had been scorched from the inside out. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. His thoughts weren't his own anymore. He knew that now. They were mingled. Something foreign was digging in. Not like possession, not violent, worse, gentle, like a hand stroking the back of his mind, whispering calm, clarity, acceptance. That was their weapon. Not fire, not blood. Understanding. They didn't destroy the other colonies, they made them agree. And now it was happening to him. "You're fighting nothing," came the voice again, closer this time. He turned. The evolved human, the creature from the Ark, now stood just a few meters away. No threat in his posture, no aggression, just patience. Like a father waiting for his child to stop throwing a tantrum. Jan's voice cracked. "Why me?" "Because you came back," the creature said. "And because part of you always wanted to know. I never asked for this. No one ever does," the creature replied. "But someone always opens the door. We are not a virus. We are not monsters. We are the next step. The final version." Jan shook his head violently. "You're not human." "I am more than human," he said, stepping forward. "We saw what the galaxy was. Empires built on fear, species ruled by instinct, all pretending to be more than animals." He crouched beside Jan, his voice like thunder wrapped in silk. "But we saw what they never did. Consciousness is a cage. We broke it. And now we Share. Jan spat blood. That's not evolution. That's a damn hive. The creature laughed softly. Number not hive, not control. Harmony. Then he reached out and touched Jan's temple. And Jan screamed. Not from pain, but from clarity. Images flooded his mind. The 13 colonies not destroyed, but absorbed. Millions of minds linked, not enslaved, but willing. Galactic wars avoided not through weapons, but through a single thought, shared. A human mind vast enough to cradle the chaos of the universe. We are not broken. We are whole. Jan collapsed. And then, silence. For a moment he forgot where he was, forgot his name. All he felt was peace. Until a whisper broke through. A voice not like the others. Not calm. Fight! It came from deep inside. Don't listen. You're still you. Fight them! Jan opened his eyes. Blood ran from his nose. The creature stepped back, confused. Something had resisted. Something old. Something wrong. And for the first time it looked uncertain. Jan smiled, just a little. Not everyone wants to be whole. He whispered. The change was subtle. Jan felt it like the moment before a lightning strike, when the air tenses, when silence feels louder than sound. Whatever was inside him, trying to tether his thoughts to the collective mind, had hit a wall. Not a barrier of strength, not willpower, something simpler. Rejection. He didn't want peace. He didn't want harmony. He wanted to be alone, to think his own thoughts, to remember pain and betrayal and fear and know it was his, not shared, not softened, not erased. And that made him dangerous. The creature, no, the evolved variant, stepped back with narrowed eyes. His expression was unreadable, but his stillness cracked. For the first time, there was hesitation, confusion. You resist, he said quietly, even with the knowledge, with the truth. Why? Jan forced himself to stand, swaying. His vision blurred, his mind still burned from the touch. But he stood. Because I remember who I am, he said, and I'm not you. The variant's face darkened. You don't understand what you're refusing. I do. You're not some future. You're a damn cage, painted gold and humming lullabies. All around them, the silent corpses began to twitch. Heads tilted, fingers curled, mouths opened in sync, as if the system itself was correcting the anomaly, trying to reclaim what it had begun. But something had changed. Jan's resistance had sparked something unintended, something contagious. One of the corpses, a child, blinked. Not that eerie glazed-over stare, but a blink, a real one. Then another twitched. A woman. Her hand moved to her chest like she'd just realized she was breathing. The variant turned sharply. No. He extended a hand towards them, his voice turning sharp, unnatural, layered. Return. Return to silence. But it wasn't working. Jan watched, stunned as the ripple spread. They were waking up. The peace was cracking. Because he had reminded them of choice. And choice, in a system built on compliance, was a virus. You built your god mind on the idea that people wanted peace. Jan said. But you forgot something. The variant snapped his gaze back to Jan. What? Jan's eyes burned, not with power, but with pain, with fury, with fire. Some of us would rather burn. He raised his pulse gun, knowing it wouldn't kill the creature, but he didn't need it to. He aimed past him. At the black box still floating in the air, its core glowing, syncing with the tower. And fired. The shot wasn't clean. The explosion wasn't massive, but it was enough. The The black box cracked open, releasing a surge of raw, corrupted memory data. A flood of unfiltered screams, rage, agony, rebellion. All the darkest corners of the human mind that the system had buried. And the collective couldn't handle it. The tower wailed. The corpses fell, screaming, gasping, feeling. And the variant? He clutched his head, for the first time truly shaken. "You've undone it," he growled. "You've ruined everything." "No," John said, walking toward him. "I just reminded them who they were." The sky above split open, not with light, but with sound. Thousands of voices, suddenly distinct. No longer humming in unity. Shouting, sobbing, laughing, and for the first time in 100 years, disagreeing. The tower collapsed. Not with fire, not with ruin, but with silence. The kind of silence that follows a scream so deep it shreds the air and leaves only void behind. Jan stood among the waking. Around him, people clutched their heads, stumbled to their knees, cried without knowing why. Not because they were injured, but because they felt. Fully, painfully. The connection was gone, the comfort severed, and in its place was something alien to them. Freedom. The variant staggered backward, his skin flickering like a failing projection, the glow beneath his surface dying one pulse at a time. His eyes, once filled with omniscience, now darted with uncertainty, confusion, fear. "You don't understand," he hissed, voice raw now, no longer calm. "They needed this. You've unleashed suffering again." Jan faced him, bruised and blooded. Number U stole their pain. You turned them into shadows of themselves. "They were content. They were nothing," the variant snarled. "And what now? Wars? Hatred? Lies? That's the human legacy you defend?" John nodded, eyes locked. "Yes, because at least we chose it." The variant lunged. Not graceful this time, not calculated. It was rage. Jan sidestepped, barely dodging the strike, and fired. The pulse blast hit the variant square in the chest, not killing, but disrupting. He screamed, a sound torn between a man and something else entirely, as his body began to tear, not from injury, but from dissonance. The collective had rejected him. The system no longer recognized him as truth. He had become a contradiction in his own creation. And contradictions couldn't survive here. He collapsed, twitching, the glow fading. The air shimmered, and he was gone. Not dead. Just undone. Jan stood still, heart pounding, lungs burning. Around him the survivors began to move, slowly, like newborns learning to walk. They looked at each other, at the sky, at themselves. Some cried, some laughed, some stared in hollow silence. But they were alive, not just breathing, living. From the horizon, one of them approached. An older man, eyes wide with something between reverence and terror. "What did you do?" he asked. Jan looked at the crater where the tower had stood. He didn't smile. He didn't speak in triumph. "I broke the silence." He turned toward the sky. The stars had never looked so cold. He didn't know what would come next. Maybe war, maybe chaos, but it would be theirs. And that was enough. He limped back towards the ship, unsure if it would even start again, unsure if he had the strength to leave. But for the first time in his life, he didn't feel alone. Because even in the wreckage, even in the ashes of forced peace, something human had survived. The will to stand, to fight, to remain imperfect. The galactic map would still stop at human space, but now it wouldn't be out of fear. It would be out of respect, because the galaxy had finally remembered. You don't walk into the dark corners of humanity uninvited, and if you do, you'd better be ready to bleed.